Okay, we've been working on, in this unit, we're a little bit jumping around because the nature of the material is live case studies, and life is a lot better to study to get yourself as a live practitioner versus studying out of a book and from materials. And so I'm trying to make this more of a grounded discussion about, you know, what is health? What are the elements? What are the minerals? What are the vitamins? What's the life force? What's pH, and how important is acid base, which is what pH is. And all, if you think what pH is, it's excessive hydrogen ions is acid, excessive hydroxyl radicals, OH, is alkaline above 7. And if you think of pH like that, that's kind of how we'll start today, is maybe I didn't have that pH. We're going to get rid of that. There it is, assessment pH. I think I even put it in the outgoing email. So if you start with the most basic of elements, and if you've been following along at all in this discussion, you'll see that the simplicity of most of the elements that make up life are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur, the chosen ones. If you remember the chosen ones, well, we have 2 of them right here. We have the H and the O, right? So water is H2O, 2 of the elements of life. Then if you add in carbon to H and O, then you have carbohydrates and refined fats. Refined fats and refined sugars are nothing more than carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Then you add in sulfur and nitrogen, then you have protein, another building element. So the point is that, see, extra hydrogen ions in the teeter-totter here leads to acid and irritation, and then extra OH ions and H2O. So H2O theoretically would be a pH of 7. And when you have extra OH, it goes above 7. So that's a really simple way to see pH. And there you go. There's some resources here for pH. And then what regulates acid base? And look at all the things involved with this. So there's a lot more involved with acid base than what we originally realized. And being acidic does not guarantee cancer. These new age healers have this whole thing about, oh, you're acidic, you're going to get cancer. Well, a lot of cancers are actually an excessive alkaline issue. And that's not spoken to very much. I'm going to repeat that. A lot of cancers and degenerative illnesses involve an alkaline issue, not an acid issue, i.e. an alkaline stomach. And we just saw in Jack Tipps's, in the recording I just did about calcium, what they call vital force is part of this stomach acid. So we're going to talk about how you can spot that in the eye in just a minute, an alkaline stomach. Then there's pH compartments. See, there's 7 different areas where the pH could be different. See, blood, lymph, mouth, stomach, small and large intestine, and cells. So we don't contextualize pH very well. We just sort of throw it out there and think we know what we're talking about. We really don't. That's how I spot the beginner from the more humble advanced health professional. And then there's metabolic or blood organ-based acidosis and alkalosis, and respiratory, and they're always opposite. Is there a... So respiratory acidosis couples with metabolic alkalosis, and respiratory alkalosis couples with metabolic acidosis. It's how our body regulates pH, as the lungs will throw off more carbonic acid when they're acidic. the carbonic acid is acidic, right? So it makes the lungs more alkaline, then it balances the pH. So respiratory alkalosis, when you hyperventilate, like what we were just doing, the breath of fire and the inward, and that can cause tetany or spasms. And then respiratory acidosis is not enough breathing, which generates the opposite in the metabolism. Okay. I don't know, I was planning on a whole lot of pH today, but this is from Stuart White. And see, controlling hydrogen ions is a complex and expensive process to the body. So your saliva and urine pH is one of the ways you can quickly find out. And he has the 3 I's of acidosis: intensity, inflammation, and anxiety. I love that. Alkalinity generates problems when you're at rest. So when you're at rest and your symptoms are aggravated, that's an alkaline issue. Now this might seem, let's guide you through this really quickly. So acidifying agents like bad food and unprocessed stress activates the buffering mechanisms, and that depletes the alkaline minerals of calcium, magnesium, potassium, and they didn't mention sodium there, which I don't know why. And then if you don't take care of it, you have a net acid excess, inflammation, your adrenals kick in, then you get adrenal fatigue. Oh, look at that. Somebody was talking about this earlier, sleep disturbances, inflammation, and then increased degenerative disease and calcification. So what's the right protein and minerals are the solution. And then you repair the restorative processes. So minerals and protein are the solution. Water is very important. So be really clear that you need half your body weight in ounces. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you need 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 100 pounds, you need 50 ounces of water a day. You got to have enough water in your diet. I'm going to have you pause that. Some of the roles that minerals play in the body. I can't mention how important the ionic and the alkaline minerals are, and including the acid minerals. They all have a function. So 90 elements, 22 are essential to life, and they have about 4% of our body weight. And there he says it. All of your vitamins, lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins are made up of 6 elements. And you add phosphorus for vitamins. And then see, macro elements like calcium, you need a certain amount per day of these larger elements. And then micro elements, they're less than 100 milligrams you need a day. And then ultra trace elements like selenium and iodine need less than 1 milligram a day. I would disagree with that in the form of iodine. I think we need about 10 milligrams a day. And mineral deficiency leads to a lack of life. The world becomes alive. I like what he says there. To understand minerals is to understand the crossover from inorganic to organic, where the world becomes alive. I believe that's it for that presentation. Any questions from the crowd on that pH stuff?
No.
Okay.
It was a bit fast, but luckily we can go back.
Yeah, I wanted to go through that because we're going to go through it. The video, when we make the final video, that piece will be cut with another piece, and that'll kind of slow it down a little bit. But that's why I'm asking for questions too. If you're watching this video on demand, then please stop to make it your speed, or you could even slow down the speed, which I think maybe Craig at 75% might actually be a normal talking speed for most people on the on the speed generator. I speed up a lot of people because they're too slow when they talk, but you need to slow me down if you really want to take in. So go to 75% and you're probably going to be a lot better.
Instead of like, we need.
Yeah, you need the slow guy. And get rid of that. I wanted to mention osteoporosis really quick here. This bone thing, as we were on this theme of minerals. And I'll check for questions in a minute. This is from that same guy, Stuart White. So remineralization of the bone matrix. Okay, fine, save it as a docket. So I can't mention how important silica is to collagen production. See, 85% of the collagen contained in the bone, of which hydroxyapatite is created in a crystal-like matrix, and that's proteins with calcium with phosphorus. So see, most of your body's calcium is in the bones and teeth. But then there's this 1% that nobody talks about much.
Can you say that again? So it's protein with phosphorus and what?
And calcium.
Ah.
It's this crystalline matrix.
Mhm.
If you want to look up more too, there's a great, oh, I was going to save that. We'll come back to it. You can go to just bone, I believe. I'll come back to it. We'll come back to that. So this is the remaining 1% of the calcium is in this ionized form, and it's acid buffering. And it's also, he's talking about osteopenia and so the bones remodel every 5 years. I don't believe that. I think it takes the bones about 5 to 10 years. So what they're saying there is that if you did like an electron microscope of the type of calcium in your bones, 5 to 10 years later, it's going to be a different set of calciums. So I'm going to put 5 to 10 years. So we want to make sure that and check this out. We realize that proper protein metabolism is required for bone health. See, nobody talks about protein and bone health. They done calcium this and blah, 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 calcium bullshit. Protein is the basis of osteoporosis and an inflammatory lifestyle to leach the calcium out. But don't believe that horse doo-doo about your protein has anything to do with, and too much protein will leach calcium out of your bones. That's also horse doo-doo. So all bone grows in response to stress. What does that mean? If you use your muscles, that causes the bones to grow. You have got to have weight-bearing and resistance exercises to build up your connective tissue. You have to do it. If you're sitting in a chair, you're the whole day in anti-gravity chairs and laying down the couch, your bones are going to turn to mush. That's just the way the nature works. You've got to have weight bearing and resistance exercises to build your bone up. So I can't mention how important that is enough. I really wanted to go to, so we don't need that today. Oh, yes. As part of our talk today about minerals and elements, we have a lot of need to look at, like one of our people has a metallic taste in her mouth. So I was looking this up earlier. So this is a MediHerb. MediHerb has a product called Chelaco, C-H-E-L-A-C-O, and Chelaco was what they found in this study to be the 3 top heavy metal assisting or binding herbs. Garlic is one, which I already knew about. Milk thistle was a little bit of a surprise. And hawthorn was the 3rd. So the study was done not in a living body though. The study was done with a mineral heavy metal rich liquid, and then they added the herbal extract to the liquid, and then they measured how much of the heavy metals were bound up by the herbal compound. So they added in lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic into a liquid. And then they found that those 3 herbs worked better than any other herbs they used. And the conclusion at the bottom here, they did try cilantro, but only had a small effect. So I would want to look at a few other herbs there. I'd want to look at, in my world, the heavy metal binding herbs are available to you in the 5 toxicities document. 5 toxicities. I spelled that right. 5 toxicities. Maybe it's, there it goes, toxicosis, 5 types. And I believe this would be in, if you want to find this in the folder, I believe it's in the filing cabinet by topic. We'll find that out in a second when the little icon pops up. Yeah, it's in cleansing foundation 3. You'll find this document, toxicosis. Cleansing foundation 3 in the filing cabinet by topic. And so if you have a heavy metal issue, there's more here. Bladderwrack, which is seaweed. Seaweed is an excellent heavy metal binding agent. Oh, and look under heavy metal, brain insufficiency, nervous deficiency. Look at that. There's garlic. Bee pollen, really underrated. Bee pollen's underrated. Fermented foods are underrated. Charcoal is very underrated. Desert chaparral is underrated. I didn't know about sarsaparilla and I haven't used it, but maybe it is. Juniper is used a lot in the standard process products. Lecithin, that's interesting. Microalgae, that's the chlorella. There's miso, folks, see? Nettles, nutritional yeast, pectin-rich foods. So your pectin-rich foods are like your berries, your citrus fruits, your asparagus. There's a document for that you can find. Red clover, I hadn't realized. Self-heal, Prunella vulgaris, folks. Self-heal. If you want to see the most beautiful flower that's very underrated, then we're going to look at that right here. I took some garden photos here. I mean, this is self-heal flower. And it's a weed. It's an invasive weed with the most beautiful invasive weed flower I've ever seen. I mean, my goodness. That's Prunella vulgaris. And
Craig, I want to give it a better reputation. I have had it in my garden in California for 10 years. Well, okay, let's say 7 to be on the safe side.
Okay.
It has never invaded anything.
Really?
Nope. It stayed right where, I don't know, because I harvested or whatever, it just stayed right put, and it, it may have not even moved. I know.
So
I don't know, even a foot.
Isabel, I had a form of self-heal that I dug up from the Pacific Cultural Center here about 15, 20 years ago. And I was using that in the garden, and then it just died off. And I didn't have any. And I was like, what happened? So I went on this guy who sells seeds up in La Honda, the Portola Valley here, that area up in the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't meet people. It's mail order only. He's very extreme, apparently. So I ordered these special self-heal seeds from him. And there's a little note basically like, hey, this is a strong one and be careful. It's very invasive. So I planted the first seed of this. It spreads over everything. It just takes over this one type of self-heal. I don't know, Isabel, I think if I sent you some seeds of this, I would just say, be careful, because this thing will spread over everything. And I think it's not a bad plant to have as a spreading invasive weed, right? You can choke out crabgrass. You can choke out plants you don't want with this plant. And it binds heavy metals was the point. Isn't that cool? Heavy metals. Wheatgrass, look at that. Why would wood sorrel and zeolite, why would wood sorrel take out heavy metals? Anybody have an idea?
Because it's sour.
It's high in phytic acid, the phytates, and phytates can carry metals out of the body. So he really doesn't do us a good service by heavy metals in that carry bone. He's trying to sell a product called Chelico, but out of that product, we have garlic. I mean, I guess I could add hawthorn to this. And this is the hawthorn leaf and flower, not the berry. We'll add that one in.
And he said milk thistle.
Oh yeah, we don't have milk thistle in there either, do we? Very well, we'll add in milk thistle. And these are the seeds of milk thistle, not the greens. There we go. We could add more to this too. See, we have this nice list of if you have a different toxicity, it kind of covers all of our bases here. All right.
What's interesting is that he had zeolite on there. So GI adsorb.
Yes. Standard process GI adsorb has chlorella, zeolite, and an herb called collinsonia root, which has an affinity to the lower bowl of the pelvis. And so collinsonia root, it takes the herbs down into that lower bowl where they, think about rocks, they settle at the bottom of the container. So on your feet and in the bottom of your pelvis is where a lot of the metallic, heavier elements will settle. In the feet, the toes, and the bottom of the pelvis. So collinsonia helps bring that back up. It's a brilliant formulation. It's one of their newer ones that I would say, huge thumbs up. Huge.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
When I look at the herbs, I wonder if it would help against injection issues too, because what are the injection issues? Heart, reproduction, right?
Yes.
So
let's go off of screen share and let's end on that. I think that's an important thing to end on because it's really up for a lot of people. Thank you, Isabel. I have a document about the injections and sort of my best guess. We all show me recorded, yeah. So if you've had the injection and some boosters, then my three basics right now are get yourself some horsetail and or oat straw and boil the silica out. Silica-rich foods. Silica covers a whole bunch of things. Get yourself some borax. This is if you're on a budget. Get yourself some borax, laundry borax, 20 mule team borax. Put a teaspoon of that powder in a liquid in a jar. Oh, the jar's not coming through. Take a teaspoon of that powder, put it into a quart-sized jar, and then fill it with water. Then of that teaspoon infused quart of water, you take a teaspoon or two of that a day. And that's 3 milligrams of boron in the teaspoon of a teaspoon, if you will. And then the last one's iodine. If you can get boron via borax, oat straw via your local, and you can get iodine if you're a cheapskate, you go down to the coast and get yourself some seaweed and boil it up. You get some iodine that way. And that's just going down to the coast and getting seaweed unless you're somewhere outside of a major metropolitan area. But if you're desperate, you can pick kelp and seaweed and even dry it and powder it. You might want to rinse it off. So those three are important. And I think if you go with those three, that's a good place to start. And finally, to end the call, I'm going to go back to a screen share and show you guys the document. I haven't looked for it in a while. So let's go to, I think it's in the immune system folder. So we go to filing cabinet by topic. There it is, immune system immunity. I made this folder more than what it ever was because of the conspiracy, we'll just say. So you've got my jab unjustified data folder. We have vaccine info, and I believe I have it. Maybe it's under vaccines, let's see. Vaccine recovery. I don't think that's the one, but it could be a helpful document. Let's see. Oh, here you go. The homeopathic of thuja and antimony tartrate is one. Isabel, you have a chime in about that?
Thuja is in Germany. It's used against warts. So what is a wart? A parasite?
Right. So then there's okay, so there's some information here about what you might need. So I won't go into it. The liver support, B vitamins, detox, what helped the most when this particular study. So you can see B's, C's, echinacea, skin brushing, which I think is always good, charcoal. And then, so this is kind of an interesting little study that they did. But I really want to find the one I made. Yep. Maybe it is under the CoBlab folder. Let's see. I didn't call COVID. I called it CoBlab because I was so tired of the baloney. Nope. Immune threats. There we go. 2021 health threats and solutions. I believe this is the single bet. There's a chemtrail one and a radiation one, you'll notice. See, there's a chemtrail one and a radiation one. And then this document here is going to be really helpful. I believe I have no, it's not even in this one. Somewhere I have a table of all the best of the best. And I did it this year, so that's what's weird. I'll have to do another video on that. I'm pretty sure there was a new biology, last modified. Let's do it like that. And there's no 2022. Oh, I wanted to show you guys before we get off this really quick clip on the calcium wave that you never see this. Yeah, calcium wave, there it is. I hope this comes through. So this was shown to me. This is what why the immune cells, why they do. Let's make sure that this even goes. So there used to be a little view both sides in presentation mode for animation. So I'm in presentation mode and it's not showing, but what you're seeing here, see this little wave. See this circle thing here? This where the arrows are pointing at? That's the immune system literally making a trail of calcium molecules that's spinning, and it spins faster and faster and faster and faster. And then the pathogen in the middle, which is right here, blows up. It literally blows up from the centripetal force of the spinning from the white blood cells. And you don't generally hear about it. See, a calcium wave travels around the cell's perimeter, splits in two. When the second wave encircling the phagosome, see, allows the digestive enzyme to enter the phagosome and destroy the target. So that's one of the reasons why calcium is so important, is because of this wave. And any questions on that you want on the video, or otherwise we'll end here. Okay.